All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Marianne Matke. I am the Education Program Manager at the Division of General Internal Medicine over at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. And I am in that role also the administrator of the Program in Clinical Effectiveness, the non-degree program, short PCE. With me tonight of my team is Melissa Crocker, as well as Olivia Ogilvie. And I would also like to introduce you to some of our faculty. We have both Heather Baer and Dr. Fran Cook joining us tonight. And I'm going to start with Heather if she wants to quickly introduce herself and then pass it over to Fran.
Sure. Thanks, Marianne. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. I am Heather Baer. I am an associate professor of epidemiology at the School of Public Health, and I have the pleasure of being involved in the program in clinical effectiveness, and then I'm the field of study leader for the MPH in clinical effectiveness. And I teach Epi 208, which is one of the core courses in the program that you'll hear about a little bit later on. With that, I will pass it over to Fran. And Fran, maybe you can have Anne introduce herself as well after you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Fran Cook. I'm a professor of epidemiology at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and at the Harvard Medical School. But more importantly, I'm a co-director of the program in clinical effectiveness, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in a minute, and I'll show you some slides. But before I do that, I'm going to let Anne introduce herself. So Anne, you're this.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Fran. My name is Anne Acapinti, and I am fully based at the Public Health School. I'm the Assistant Dean for Professional Education, and in that capacity work with all MPH students, and therefore have a lot of knowledge about the part after the program in clinical effectiveness for people who want to matriculate into the MPH program. Nice to be here.
Great. Okay. I got to warn you guys, I'm the least technical savvy faculty member at Harvard, but that hasn't stopped me from trying to teach online and things like that. So I'm going to try to share some slides with you now. So I'm going to wait and ask one of you if you can let me know if you see it. Do you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So let me pull them. So this evening, if you're in our time zone, or good morning, good afternoon, if you're elsewhere around the world, welcome to this information session. We're going to be discussing two programs at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. One is a certificate program, the Program in Clinical Effectiveness, the PCE. And the other is a targeted degree program, a degree program that was developed for the students who complete the program in clinical effectiveness. It's the MPH in clinical effectiveness. And Heather Baer will be talking about that along with a few of the current students in that program. So the agenda is I'm going to give you a brief description and talk about the history of the PCE and describe it and talk about its courses. Then I'm going to turn this over to Heather. She's going to talk about the MPH and clinical effectiveness and mention at least one other degree program that was developed for students who completed the program in clinical effectiveness. She's going to introduce you to a few of the students who are currently in the MPH CLE program. But we want to spend most of the night talking about answering any questions that you might have. So that's what we'll be leading up to. So first, the description, the history of this program. In a nutshell, what is the PCE? It's an intensive 6-week summer program designed for physicians and clinicians seeking the analytical skills needed for clinical health services and population health research. So in a nutshell, what it is, it's a certificate program designed to train clinicians with the quantitative skills needed to do clinical research. It's intense. Each day it meets for 6 weeks, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Each day, last summer, there were 3 classes plus computer labs, office hours. So essentially, it kept you busy all day. What the students earn from taking the PCE is 15 academic credits. They also pay for 15 credits of tuition. Well, that is 1/3 of the credits you need to complete a Master's of Public Health at the T.H. Chan School of Public Health. It's a little bit more than what you need to complete a Master's of Science at the Harvard Chan School. So the PCE really has 2 audiences in it. They're all clinicians, they're all fellows or faculty members at Harvard teaching hospitals or elsewhere around the world who want to learn these skills. but one part of them, roughly 2/3, are in a certificate program and are not currently in a degree program. Many of them will later apply for a degree program, and the school has allowed anybody taking the PCE as a non-degree student to enroll, if can apply to a degree program within the next 5 admission cycles, and if admitted, they can roll over all the tuition they paid and all the credits they earned into that degree program. We will hold another information session in January that's gearing mostly towards students in the certificate program. But tonight, since the deadline for applying for a degree program at the Harvard T.H. Chan is December 1st, we're going to be focusing mainly on the second cohort, degree students who are starting their degree by taking the program in clinical effectiveness, and then following it up with courses in the spring and in the fall, if they're on campus, or following up with other summer courses or online courses if they're in a summer focus program. So in terms of the history of the program, it's been around for 37 years. We've trained about 4,000 students. About half of them have come back and taken courses in their second summer as part of a degree program. About 20 years ago or so, we developed an MPH field of study program called clinical effectiveness. That's what Heather will be talking about tonight, the MPH CLE. We also developed 2 summer-focused degree programs. One is a summer-only or summer-focused MPH and CLE, and the other is a summer-only, summer-focused Masters of Science in Epidemiology. So let me describe the courses that we offer within the PCE. And what I'm going to do is describe the courses we offered in the summer of 2023 that ended a few months ago. The program in 2024 isn't finalized yet, but it usually is pretty close to what we have in the previous year. The guts of the program, the most important part of the program, the flagship part of the program, in my opinion, is the morning core courses in introductory epidemiology and introductory biostatistics. Every degree student at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, I believe, is still required to take introductory epidemiology or introductory biostatistics, regardless of what the degree they're in, unless they've had previous training. You can waive that requirement. So this is a way to fulfill the requirement. And if you are interested in clinical research, in my opinion, this is the best sequence of introductory courses in epidemiology and biostatistics that you should take. I think there are 5 different ways you can take introductory courses in Epi and Biostat at Harvard T.H. Chan. One in the June program, 2 in the summer program, 2 in the fall. But this is, in my opinion, the best program for those who want to learn the skills needed to do clinical research, as Heather will be describing in a few minutes. This is what the morning looked last summer. Students came at 8 o'clock in the morning for a 90-minute class on introductory epidemiology. At 11:30, there was a 90-minute class in biostatistics. And in between those two, sandwiched in between, was sometimes epidemiology, sometimes biostatistics, sometimes it was computer lab, sometimes it was office hours, sometimes it was an additional lecture or so. So the morning was entirely focused on introductory epidemiology and introductory biostatistics. And as I say, these are the core flagship courses in our program. They're highly, highly rated. Probably, they are great courses in terms of what student feedback that we have. They're very applied. They're focusing on the tools you need to do clinical research. They're integrated together. For example, we hold a joint computer exercise with run by both the biostat and the epidemiology faculty. And in my opinion, they are the flagship, the most important courses as part of the program in clinical effectiveness. To give you a little bit of a flavor now of what the epidemiology and the biostatistics courses cover, Heather, you want to take over for a minute and talk about your course, the introductory course in epidemiology?
Sure, thanks, Fran. And Fran calls it my course, but Introduction to Clinical Epidemiology, EPI 208, is very much a team taught course. I think that's one of the reasons that it's such a successful course. So I am the lead faculty member for the course, but there's several other main faculty members who are involved. And then there's something like 60 faculty members who help with some different components that are related to the project in the course that I'll talk about in a minute. So, but just to give you a flavor for what EPI 208 covers, it does cover the principles and methods that are used in traditional and clinical epidemiologic research. So, sort of, some of you may have familiarity with some of these methods already, but I think this is a very thorough and comprehensive course that covers, everything ranging from different study designs to issues of bias and confounding to issues with how to conduct analysis to how to interpret results, et cetera. So very comprehensive in terms of the methodology. The way that the course is structured is on most weekdays, and Fran kind of showed you what the schedule looks like a couple minutes ago. On most weekdays, there are in-person lectures during the course, but it's not a lecture just where you sit there and nod your head. We try to make the lectures very interactive. So there are a variety of kind of hands-on activities that we do during class time. We sometimes do live polling, small discussions. There are homework assignments sprinkled throughout the summer to try to get you to apply the concepts that you're learning in class. There's a quiz to get you to pull together the material. So I think that kind of first item is probably fairly standard in terms of what you would take in an intro EPI class. But I think what distinguishes EPI 208 from some other introductory epidemiology classes at the school and perhaps in other places as well is that a really big focus of the course is also working on an individual project on a topic of the student's choice to really take the concepts that you're learning about epidemiology as well as biostatistics and apply them to a project that you're designing yourself. And so the idea is, in addition to all of the things that I already mentioned, attending lectures and doing homework assignments, et cetera, at the same time that you're doing this, you're also working on developing a proposal for a study that you're hopefully planning to conduct in the near future using the methods that you've been learning during the course of the summer. So all students in the course over the course of the summer, which is 6 weeks, write a proposal for a study. They don't necessarily do the study during the summer, but the idea is that they write a very detailed proposal for a project that they're planning to conduct in the near future. And this is kind of written in the form of a mini grant proposal. So it's not as long as something that you would actually submit for a grant, but it's in very much the same format as that. And many students actually take that and then use that to apply for funding for a real grant. So there's lots of things built in over the course of the summer to help students with that proposal. So it's not just like, go write a proposal, get back to us in 6 weeks. There's a lot of built-in activities to help students do that. And that's where the 60 some odd faculty members that I mentioned come in. So there's lots of classes where we break students up into small groups where they get to choose different faculty that they're interested in getting feedback from, who may work in their particular area of interest. So there are small group workshops, there's presentations that students do, there's opportunities to sign up for one-on-one office hours with faculty, and all of this kind of culminates in the final paper, but all of this is being built like throughout the summer. And again, I think this is one of the unique and strongest components of the course. In addition, as I alluded to already, many students do end up using this proposal to really launch their own research, to do an actual study, to perhaps to apply for funding, et cetera. So that's EPI 208 in a nutshell. I could talk a lot more about it because I do love the course, but I know we have other things to cover. So Fran, do you mind going ahead to the next slide?
Yep.
Great, thank you. So the other core course that all students in the program in clinical effectiveness take are it's 2 courses, but for all practical purposes, it's really 1 course because it's taught by the same faculty member now throughout the summer. So that's BST 206 and 207, Introductory Statistics for Medical Research. This is an incredibly, again, comprehensive biostatistics course or courses with fantastic teaching. It covers a variety of methods, such as testing confidence intervals, how to do graphics and summary statistics on your data, various forms of statistical tests that are shown here, regression models, which is a little bit more advanced, how to calculate sample size and power, which is necessary for any kind of study that you might be designing. And then in terms of software, which is sometimes a question that students ask, students can actually learn how to use SAS, Stata, or R during the summer. So it used to be that we only taught in one of these programs, but now we're recognizing that students have different needs. And so actually the biostatistics courses, you can use any of these, and the instructor kind of teaches you how to use all of them. So that's a really nice feature. And then there is, as Fran mentioned, there's a computer exercise where you do an analysis that it's sort of integrated between the two courses, Epi and Biostat. But in general, in addition to that, I would say we just really try to make the two courses integrated in general. So it's not just that one computer exercise, but throughout, making sure that the topics are well aligned. Some of what you'll be learning in biostatistics ends up in your Epi 208 study proposal, because you can't propose a study without proposing how you're going to use the data from that study. So I think the two courses, while taught by different people, I think are really well aligned and work well together. So that's all I'll say for now about biostatistics, but happy to answer more questions about that. So Fran, please go ahead, back to you.
So that was the morning last year. That will be the morning for the 2024 in the summer also, epidemiology and biostatistics. In addition to that, last year, all students were required to take an afternoon elective courses in the first half of the summer, the first 3 weeks, the summer 1 period, and a different elective course in the second 3 weeks. Here are the titles of the 5 courses that we offered in the summer 1 period last year. We're in the process now of developing the curriculum for the 2024 summer, so some of these might change. I anticipate the last one, the ethical basis for public health studies, will probably not be offered. Used to be a required course in the MPH program. It no longer is, so the enrollment has gone down dramatically. We may well replace that, and probably will, with a different course as an elective in the summer 1 period. And these were the 6 courses that we offered in the as electives in the summer 2 period. And again, we anticipate that all of them or most of them will be offered again next year. The only one that might not be offered, is the methods for decision making, because the professor teaching that course for many, many years has decided to retire, and we're not sure whether we will locate another person to take over that course. So that was last year, 15 credits. Everyone taking epidemiology and biostatistics in the morning, and everyone having to take an elective course in the summer 1 period and another one in the summer 2 period. That filled up the entire day. We've asked the school if they would allow us to change the policy to give the people just the option of taking the morning courses if they have clinical responsibilities in the afternoon. We'll see what happens. But as of now, everyone will be taking the morning courses and an elective in summer 1 and an elective in summer 2. Now, we also, as I mentioned, offer courses for people to come back and take a second summer. Usually what they take are different elective courses in the afternoon, their second summer. But we also offer 2 advanced methods course in the mornings for people returning their second summer. We also offer these to anybody who has had previous training in epidemiology and biostatistics. And if you're in a degree program, you may want to petition the school to see if you could replace those introductory courses with an advanced course. And we offer 2 of them. One is in the summer 1 period, a course that meets twice each morning, has a strange title, Analytical Aspects of Clinical Epidemiology. But essentially, it covers how clinical researchers use regression models to do analysis, either controlling confounding or building prediction rules. And we also in the summer 2 offer a course on survival analysis. So that's what the curriculum was last year, and I suspect it'll be very similar for the coming year. It doesn't change that much from one summer to another. One other thing I'd like to mention about our curriculum to underscore the importance of the morning courses that Heather just described is that basically, as part of our 20th anniversary of the program back in, well, that would have been with the 2007, we surveyed our graduates as of that time. We sent out, almost 1,500 emails. About 3/4 of people responded. It's a publication that was written based on that survey. It's on our web site if you want to read it. But this just shows what some of the positions are that our graduates have gone on to. At that time, 20 years into the program, 6 of them were deans, 31 were department chairs, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we can't take full credit for this. I mean, we can't guarantee that if you take our program in clinical effectiveness, you'll be a dean of a medical school someday. I think this reflects the type of students we attract. We have a gifted student cohort, and what we try our best to have students learn from each other. I'm a big believer in peer education. So one of the big pluses, what makes our program so very special, are the students that we can attract to our program. They're highly motivated, they're highly skilled, and you will learn from one another if you take this program. The other thing I just want to mention is we asked our students, what happened to that study you developed as part of your EPI 208 project, as Heather was describing. 43% said they got grant funding after the summer ended to do that project, and 2/3 of them almost said that they wrote a paper and was published based on that project. Now, many of our afternoon elective courses also have projects, and those students said 14% received grant funding for a project they developed in an afternoon elective, and almost 1/3 of them said they wrote a publication on it. This just reflects the applied nature of our program. That's why I say this is the best sequence of introductory EPI and biostat courses to take if you want to do clinical research. It's based on the students we have. It's based on those 60-something faculty that Heather was referring to. We do our best to try to help you get started in your career as a clinical researcher. So that's the last plug I'm going to make for the program in clinical effectiveness. That's the starting point for your degree program, or as a standalone certificate program if you are not in a degree program. But I'm going to turn it over to Heather to talk about one of the degree programs that was developed for graduates of the PCE. So Heather, you're back
Yeah.
on.
Thanks, Fran. And everyone, I'll be fairly brief. I want to give you kind of a flavor for the MPH and clinical effectiveness, but I also want you to kind of meet a few of our current students who are on and answer questions. So I will go through this pretty quickly just to give you an overview. But as Fran mentioned, and I think I said earlier, I am the field of study leader for the MPH in clinical effectiveness, which was specifically designed for students who have completed the program in clinical effectiveness. So it's one of the degree programs and the most common one that students go into after the program in clinical effectiveness. But I will mention one other degree program as well. So Fran, next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the MPH in clinical effectiveness is just one MPH field of study. So there are a number of other fields of study at the School of Public Health, but this one was designed, again, specifically for students who are coming from the program in clinical effectiveness. So the MPH in clinical effectiveness, like many other MPH programs at the school, is 45 credits total, or 45 credits minimum, I should say. You actually can go over that, so you can take additional classes if you want for no extra charge, but at a minimum, students need to take 45 credits. And so we said that the program in clinical effectiveness is 15 credits, so you're basically, the PCE is 1/3, essentially, of the MPH. Some students apply for and enter the MPH in clinical effectiveness at the same time that they're entering the PCE, and so that's why we're having this information session now, because hopefully some of you will be applying for the degree, which the deadline is December 1. But you can also apply for the program in clinical effectiveness for sort of just a non-degree certificate program. And then if you did that and decided later that you were interested in doing the MPH in clinical effectiveness, you could later apply to the MPH in clinical effectiveness as long as it's within 5 years. So there's a couple different ways. Some students come in right straight into the degree program. Some students start off just in the PCE and then maybe later decide they want to do a degree. But essentially, the MPH in clinical effectiveness is focused on identifying the most appropriate, ethical, and cost-effective means of providing healthcare through prevention, early detection, and treatment. So that's sort of the overall focus. In terms of qualifications that students who apply to the MPH in clinical effectiveness have, they do need to have a prior medical degree or doctoral degree. So some of those would include an MD or an MBBS, perhaps if you're coming from a different country, a DO, DMD, DDS, PhD, JD. So there's a number of other degrees, but usually students are coming in with a medical degree. That's the most common one. Fran, please go ahead to the next slide. There's a couple different flavors in terms of the schedule for how you can do the MPH and clinical effectiveness. And so one of the options is called the academic year MPH and clinical effectiveness, and that's what's shown here on the left side of the slide. If you do the academic year program, that essentially means that students are either completing the degree full-time in one academic year, and that's often true for international students as they would do the degree in one academic year, but it also can be done part-time. It currently says part-time over 2 to 3 years, although I just found out that in the future, this is actually going to be 2 years only. So part-time students will have 2 years. The fact of the matter is most of our students already complete it part-time in 2 years anyway, so that's actually not a dramatic change, but that's something that's going to be happening, it sounds like, next year. So basically 1 year full-time or 2 years part-time if you do the academic year option. Students who are in the academic year program can basically take classes at any time of the year. So they start off in the summer taking the program in clinical effectiveness, but then can continue and take courses in the fall, in the spring, even in the winter session, which is this little January session when there are a bunch of options for classes. So academic year students will have the most choices in terms of the variety of classes that you can take at Harvard, because you can take classes in any one of those semesters. In addition, we do have some online courses at the school that are elective courses. And if space, those courses were designed for a different degree program that I'm also involved in. But sometimes there's additional space in those courses. And so sometimes our academic year students can take online courses as well if there is space in those courses. In addition, academic year students also have the option to cross-register if they wanted to in certain other courses at other Harvard graduate schools and MIT. So that's kind of a nice perk of being in the academic year program. In contrast, the summer focused program is designed for students who aren't necessarily based in the Boston area, but maybe based, elsewhere in the US or even in other countries. And so they want to kind of come during focus time periods to complete the MPH. So the summer focused MPH was designed to be completed in 3 summers. And then in addition, students can take some kind of online MPH core courses in between those summers. And I'll talk about those very briefly in just a minute. Students who are in the summer focused MPH in clinical effectiveness, most of their coursework is focused during the summer. That is why it's called the summer focused MPH in clinical effectiveness. But those students also have the option of taking courses on campus in January if they want to. January is this sort of 3-week session where there's a bunch of interesting short courses that are offered. So summer focused students can actually come and take courses during that time period if they want to. They also have the ability to enroll in these online elective courses if there is space available. But unfortunately, the summer focused students do not have the ability to cross-register. So those are kind of the 2 main flavors. When you apply, if you're applying to the MPH in clinical effectiveness, you do have to choose one of those options when you're doing the application. However, if you applied to one and were accepted and then realized that the other option was going to work better, it is possible to switch. Fran, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a nice just schematic that somebody else put together and I sort of stole, but I think it just kind of summarizes nicely what the different requirements are of the MPH in clinical effectiveness curriculum. And the nice thing is there's actually quite a bit of flexibility. So students, I think, and maybe some of our current students when we get there can speak to this a little bit as well. There's quite a bit of flexibility in terms of what students take in their electives. So I think people are really able to tailor this to what they're most interested in. But basically, there is a sort of core curriculum. That means there are certain courses that all MPH students at the Chan School take, regardless of what field of study you're in. So that's what we call the core. Then there's some specific coursework to this field of study that's very specific for MPH and clinical effectiveness students. And then really everything else is elective. So other courses that you might take at the Chan School, again, you could potentially cross-register if you're in the academic year program. All of that has to add up to at least 45 credits. Again, you can go over 45 credits as well. These slides will be circulated afterward, but I have included the link that you could get to where you could look in detail at the curriculum guide to get a better sense of these requirements. Fran, you can go ahead to the next slide. Thanks. So again, I won't go through these in detail, but I wanted to show you what the core courses for all MPH students at the school look like. So this is the current set of courses that all MPH students take. So clinical effectiveness students take these courses just like all other students at the school. They cover a variety of kind of fundamental areas of public health because this is an MPH degree. And one thing I wanted to note on the slide is actually the majority of these courses are online and asynchronous, which means you have some flexibility in terms of when you can take them and the schedule in terms of doing the work. So that is a nice feature. Next slide, please. And then all students at the school also, all MPH students at the school also do have to take introductory epidemiology and biostatistics. But because our students start off in the program in clinical effectiveness in the summer, and I already spoke about these courses, Introduction to Clinical Epidemiology and the biostatistics courses, our students have already satisfied these requirements. So basically, your biostatistics and epidemiology core requirements are satisfied by the epidemiology and biostatistics courses that you take during the summer. So you've basically already taken care of that requirement through the PCE. Next slide, Fran. Thank you. And then these are the requirements that are specific to the MPH in clinical effectiveness. So our students, in addition to having to take introductory statistics during the summer, also have to take one course in regression, which is a very useful statistical method for a lot of different kinds of public health and clinical research. So I won't name them all, but what I'm trying to show you is there's a few different choices that you can take for that regression course. Some students actually take more than one because they overlap a little bit, but they also cover slightly different topics within regression. So there's a few different options for that. And then in addition, all of our MPH and clinical effectiveness students take what we call upper level CLE courses. And that is basically defined here in the slide, but it means any courses beyond the intro level that provide students with analytic or quantitative skills for evaluating clinical and public health issues. There are a very large number of courses, in fact, that satisfy this requirement. So again, you'll receive the slides after, and I've included a link here where you can see the full list of courses that would count as upper level CLE, but there are a lot of them and they're excellent courses. I included just a few on the slide to give you a sense of what they are. But I also continue to expand this list because we have so many courses at the Chan School that I can't always keep track of what all of, there's a lot of different courses in other departments that would satisfy this requirement. So I'm actually continuing to update this list over time. Next slide, Fran. And then lastly, kind of the last sort of requirement for the MPH in clinical effectiveness, and there's some version of this that's actually required also for all MPH fields of study at the school, is all students have to do an applied practice experience and integrative learning experience. So that means for us, for our students, all students work on a practicum that is usually an applied research project of their choice and present it. And then in addition, also now write up a paper about it as well. So there are specific courses that you take where you work on those, you work on the project, you present the project, you hear about other students' projects, you get feedback from faculty along the way. So there's basically two different courses depending upon whether you're an academic year student or a summer focus student, but they're similar in terms of the setup. So I've included the course numbers here, but the basic idea is that all students in this MPH field of study would be working on an applied project and would be, in a forum where they're presenting it, getting feedback from each other and from faculty. So I think it's a really nice kind of culminating experience of the program. Next slide, Fran. And this just gives a little bit more detail about what I just said about the applied practice experience. And then now we have this requirement in addition to write up a final paper as well, which is, I think, a nice way for students to actually write up almost a manuscript based on their practicum project. So the second bullet here is kind of a new requirement that's just being rolled out now, but I actually think it's something that's going to be beneficial to our students in the long term. Next slide, Fran. I'm going to say just one word about one other degree program, and I won't go into detail about it because I'm not the lead on this particular degree, but there was another degree program that was developed specifically for students coming out of the program in clinical effectiveness, and that's the Summer Focus Masters of Science in Epidemiology. So note that this is a Masters of Science degree, not a Masters of Public Health. So it's slightly different. A Masters of Science is considered to be a research degree versus a Masters of Public Health is considered to be a professional degree or a public health degree. So they are quite similar, in fact, in terms of what many students take. But one thing that's different is with the Masters of Science, because it's not an MPH, those core public health requirements are not part of a Masters of Science degree. And so Masters of Science students tend to go maybe a little bit deeper in some of the epidemiologic methods courses. It's similar in terms of the total number of credits, designed to be completed in 2 to 3 summers. And there are different options for when students can take courses. But because this is a summer-focused degree, students who are in this program also do focus their coursework in the summer, but do have the option of taking some courses during winter session as well, or perhaps taking online courses. Students in a Master's of Science also write a thesis. And so for this, they have a local mentor as well as a Harvard faculty member who's assigned to be their mentor. I have included a link here with more info if you're interested. And then at the very end, which we are not too far from, we also have contact information for each one of these programs. So if you have further questions about the Masters of Science, we have the contact information at the end in case you wanted to reach out. Next slide, Fran. Great. So this is the part that's the best part. So I'm glad that I didn't spend too long talking about the last set of slides. So we are lucky to have, I mean, one thing that Fran said, but I'm just going to emphasize this, is like, I think the students in our program are the best. And this is one of the major strengths of the program. So not only do the students learn from faculty, but I think the students learn as much from each other, maybe more than they learn from faculty. So with that said, I sent out an email like a week or two ago asked to sort of our listserv for current MPH and clinical effectiveness students to see if anyone wanted to join this session. And I immediately got like literally 25 emails from students within about 30 minutes. And so just to say, our students are jumping up and down to tell you about the program, which I think is really great. But we have 3 current students on with us now. Rodrigo, unfortunately, was not feeling well earlier, and so he is not on with us tonight. But what I'm going to do is I'll go through the names of the other 3 students who are on. I'll ask them to say hello, just briefly introduce themselves, maybe say what their kind of professional background is and kind of why they chose the program in clinical effectiveness and the Masters of Public Health and Clinical Effectiveness. And then we're coming up to the questions and answers, and you can certainly direct questions to them as well. So Lisa, you are first on the list. Do you mind going ahead?
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we hear you well.
Okay, perfect. My name is Lisa Gudenkoff. I have a PhD in clinical health psychology. I currently work at Moffitt Cancer Center in the Division of Population Sciences in the Department of Health Outcomes and Behavior. But when I first joined, I started as a PCE student, and I was at Mayo Clinic as a clinician exclusively. So I was transitioning to research, and I wanted to have more experience in population health research specifically. So I applied for the PCE and then completed the PCE, and then I applied for the MPH and got in, and I just finished my last summer. So I'm going to be graduating. I think it says November 14th. So very soon on Tuesday, I'll be graduating, but it's been a great experience. I will briefly say that my practicum project, we published within a few weeks after I completed my practicum. And then for the EPI 208 proposal, that I'm submitting that grant proposal for January cycle. So I'm very appreciative of this experience. And I think they're correct that the students are also a huge advantage of this program. And I have so many friends around the world, and the networking and just knowledge base that we all share together is incredible. So I would highly recommend and would do again. They are kicking me out, but I was able to take a few more credits than required.
I was not kicking you out, Lisa. You could stay.
Yeah,
but I know that the school has rules about the time period to finish your degree.
Heather and I had a conversation that you do need to graduate.
Eventually, people need to graduate, but we like having you while you're there. So thanks a lot, Lisa. Abarna, you're next.
Hi, my name is Abana Pearl. I changed my last name recently, but I'm an infectious disease fellow at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, one of the hospitals in Boston. I am interested in infection control and hospital epidemiology, and so I wanted to get a good grounding in biostatistics and epidemiology. I'm also interested in potentially a career in research. And in public health. So that was my motivation for doing the MPH. I actually started off also doing the PCE last summer, and then applied to do the academic year MPH. I think that the program has really served me well and has been one of the high points of my infectious disease fellowship. I've been doing the MPH kind of alongside my infectious disease fellowship, and I've learned so many great skills, in biostatistics, epidemiology, decision analysis, using SAS, and also have formed really good friends, including Lisa and some other people who I always ask for help with research questions and SAS code and things like that. So I'm really happy that I made the decision to join the MPH program and the PCE.
Thanks, Aberna. And last but not least, Shai, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. My name is Shai Shimoni. I'm originally a leukemia physician from Israel. I came here almost 2.5 years ago, and I started with the PCE. I did an advanced fellowship in the leukemia department at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. It's affiliated with Harvard as well. Actually, this program gave me a basis to do all the clinical research I'm now doing for the entire department. So it really changed the course of my career thus far. And because the first project I did for the PCE 2.5 years ago was published in a high-tier journal, and after 2 years of knowing what I learned, and I wanted to elaborate my capabilities, and I decided to go and pursue for the full MPH degree, and my practicum now that that I presented is going to be in a big oral session soon in hematology, and got awards, and I mean, I think the effect of learning from the faculty, and also as mentioned from colleagues here, is enormous. The influence you get from everyone is really unparalleled, and that is a powerhouse. And that's also, I also encountered a lot of friends that I'm still emailing, contacting, asking questions, and not just colleagues. I mean, I also sent questions to my stat teacher from Brian from 2 years ago, asking questions about coding. He said, I'm always available, and he is always available. So that is pretty amazing and highly recommended.
Thank you, Shai. I'll pass that on to Brian that you said that. He'll like that. Great. So now that you've met a few current students, we're just going to really wrap up very quickly with the slides just to show you last couple things, and then we'll just open it up for questions. So thanks, Fran. You can go ahead. So I'll just speak for a minute about how to apply and deadlines, specifically if you're applying as a degree student. So that's the deadline that's coming up December 1st. So if you're applying planning to apply as to the PCE and to the MPH in clinical effectiveness, or maybe to the summer only Masters of Science that I mentioned, that the December 1st deadline is important. There is a link included. Again, this will be circulated afterward. This link has very good instructions about what you need to do to apply. So I'm just very briefly summarizing that here. But essentially what you need to do is you would apply via Sophus, which is the application system that's used by the online application system that's used by schools of public health. So there's a degree application. When you complete the degree application in Sophus, you would indicate which program you're applying to, so which field of study. And then these are the basic components that are included in the application. So all students need to write a statement of purpose that's less than 600 words. For the MPH program in particular, we are currently not, we are blind to test scores, in fact. So that means not only do you not have to send standardized test scores, but in fact, even if you did, we are actually not using them right now. So in fact, don't send GRE scores or MCAT scores or anything like that for the MPH program because we are not currently using them. It may be different for the Masters of Science. Actually, it does differ a little bit from program to program. So if you are applying to the Masters of Science, I would actually encourage you to email the admissions office, and we have contact information at the end if you're not sure about that. But the only thing to mention is that if you you do need to submit an English proficiency exam if you did not have a degree from an institution that's an English speaking institution. So obviously if you went to school in the US or in another country that sort of teaches in English, then you don't need to do this. But if you're coming from another country where English was not the language of instruction, then you would need to submit one of these. And now for this proficiency exam, there's several that are accepted. So the TOEFL, the IELTS, or Duolingo, which is new and I think less expensive and maybe easier to get done quickly. So again, if you had questions about this, the admissions office would be able to help, but I just wanted to point that out. And then you would also need to submit 3 letters of recommendation, your CV or resume, and transcripts. And if your transcripts are international, they need to be translated by the World Education Service, and there's information on the website about that. And then in addition to that, there's a very brief supplement form that you would need to complete specifically for the PCE, but that's minimal compared to what information needs to be done in SOFIS. So those are the kind of the 2 pieces if you're applying to the MPH or the Masters of Science degree program. I'm going to turn it to Marian just to talk briefly about the application for the non-degree program.
Thank you, Heather. It's kind of very similar. Our deadline for the non-degree program is going to be February 1st, so there's a little bit more time on that. Your application is going to be submitted in SOFAS Express, not SOFAS. It's a little bit different. It's also, I believe the fee for SOFAS Express is $55, and it's a little bit more for the actual SOFAS degree application. And then you would also submit your CV, a personal statement, about a 1-page document. You need 3 letters of recommendation, and then transcripts and standardized tests are optional. I don't believe we actually look at them, but Fran could nod or shake his head on that one because I know he knows a little better. And then as Heather said, there's going to be the application supplement. Any PCE applicant needs to fill that out. It's a very quick, brief online form that we need to keep track of. While I'm on this, I would also like to mention, if you apply for any other degree outside the MPH, CLE, or the MS EPI, which you potentially could do, you need to fill out both the SOFAS application for your degree application, as well as the SOFAS Express for the PCE, as you're not considered part of that automatically. You also should get permission from the degree program that you're applying with if you want to apply those credits towards it. So there's a little bit more complication in that. There is no financial aid available for non-degree programs, which brings me into the topic of tuition. Last year, the PCE was, the tuition was $23,100 for the 15 credits. As part of the degree program, there's no additional cost. It's not any more expensive if you take the program as a non-degree and then decide to do one of the degrees afterwards. That is already included. It's not going to be more expensive to start with the non-degree program and finish the degree later. It comes out to the same thing. The cost raises annually between 3 to 8%, and we won't know the tuition until approximately February of next year, and then we will publish it on our website. So you can see that there. Fran, next slide. All right, that's the contact information. I just want to iterate, who should apply for our program. So we're, looking for physicians, clinical researchers, fellows, NPs, PAs, faculty, pretty much anybody who, has a mentored environment, works in a mentored environment, and, has an interest in doing research and an opportunity to apply that as well. We do not take medical students, which I think is the most important part of that. You have to finish your residence training or be in a residence training for more than 3 years that has an opportunity to focus on some research. Up there in the contact information, you can see our website. Anything that you need to know is listed on there, from how to apply, who applies, our courses. We try to really make it as transparent as possible, and it takes you also from there to the various degree programs if you need more information. if you have questions for us, reach out. The PCE program is the first email listed, goes to me and my team. We'll be happy to direct you if we don't know the answer to the right people. But we've also listed the contact information for the MPH as well as the MS EPI program, the admissions office, and the register. So with that, we'll take the next slide and open up for questions.